Hi, I'm Alan Ross. I'm the managing editor of APC Media, or APC Technology Productions, Transformer Technology, Power Systems Technology. We are here at the RE Plus 2023 event in Las Vegas. This thing is huge. It seems like the battery storage people have come here. So we've got wind, solar, battery storage, and everything in between. But hope you enjoy these interviews. I love interviewing the technology of the future, and enjoy. My next guest is Tanner Behrend. Tanner is from Ontario. I actually grew up in Toronto, so I feel like I'm part Canadian. We're a gentle people.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of apologies. That's the ongoing theme. So
apologies, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tanner, you've got a very, very interesting title. Okay. You are the manager of
funding and expansion.
Funding and expansion. Okay, we're going to talk about that as it relates to the company. But you're relatively new into the industry, so you got a Bachelor of Engineering in Green Process Technology?
Green Process Engineering.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. You're the only guy I've ever met that has that.
Yeah, very, very kind of specific program. I think it was only available at Western Engineering for, I want to say like 12 years. They've wound it down now, but effectively it was a specialized chemical engineering degree that also focused on aspects of renewable energy, green chemistry, pretty much life cycle analysis. So really integrating more of that sustainability into a chemical industry where usually a lot of that kind of preparation would directly just go, nope, you're going into oil and gas, that's pretty much it. Or maybe you're going to some of those, those chemical plants, which a lot of the times either the input or the output is somehow tangentially related to oil and gas. So it was interesting seeing kind of that paradigm shift that happened. And we always kind of joke around that, the program's not available anymore, but effectively our courses actually replaced some of those more traditional oil and gas courses. So we joke around that green process engineering still exists and chemical engineering has been wound up.
All right, so you're relatively new to the industry. What do you see when you look at this industry? Because you're young, you are the future. What do you see, challenges, opportunities, those kinds of things?
I think there's a lot of positive momentum, and there's also some inertia when you're looking at kind of how the industry's perceived that comes off very negative sometimes. Because I think, again, when you're looking at those traditional energy systems, you're looking at, you've got energy that flows one way, and you've got, effectively data and money that flows the other way. And I think one thing that we're seeing now, and there's a lot of perception that's changing around that, especially when you're looking at, the integration of renewables, distributed energy resources, that is becoming more of a two-way flow pretty much in every aspect. So whether it's, it's not just consumers, you're having prosumers who are also sending electricity back to the grid. That flow of money is going both ways as well. You're not just paying, there's additional opportunities for not only savings, but also revenue and pretty much supporting the grid, especially when we're looking at, that industrial. You're always going to start with industrials because of their impact, but I think one of the things that became immediately apparent is that, there's this connotation around the energy industry that, especially when you're talking about, energy, your biggest energy companies are still oil and gas companies. So as I was entering that, it's not a sexy industry still, and I think that's one thing that we're slowly changing that. And with the new technologies, AI is being mentioned, left, right, and center. But there's a lot of interesting applications on, AI, machine learning, and a lot of more of those interesting newer developments in the larger tech sphere that are now being applied specifically to energy, which I think is sparking a lot of excitement. And you're having a lot of startups now that aren't specifically related to some kind of offshoot of a specific gas or natural gas product or whatever the new energy source is going to be, but actually we're finding on different optimizations and different technology that can be applied, especially on a customer-facing sense, to actually improve that understanding, improve that education, and get more people involved in an industry that historically hasn't been very exciting. So I think at a super high level, that's what became immediately apparent, and it's a very complex industry, and I think it's always going to be that way. So there's always going to have to be some sort of interface between the consumer industry and effectively regulation, and there's so many moving pieces there that, especially from the outside, when your exposure is I get a monthly utility bill that's pretty much, and sometimes the value is higher, sometimes it's lower, but I pay it nonetheless. There's so many little intricacies that even go down to a single line item on that aren't immediately apparent to a consumer, that I think it's really exciting as someone who, I'm a data nerd, the more numbers the better, but a lot of interesting opportunities to pretty much break that down and actually, especially as the energy systems are changing, that entire bill system is entirely in flux, and you're seeing kind of across North America as a whole, a bunch of different avenues, a bunch of different routes that companies, utilities, consumers, are taking to pretty much navigate the larger energy transition. So I think it's a really exciting time for the energy industry as a whole.
One of the things you mentioned was the reliance on data, data management. Everybody likes to think they can plug it into Chat GPT and get an answer. Really check it out, because sometimes the answer is wrong, right? So the idea that we're moving, and you also, it seems like everything is very complex right now. I try to break things down in cycles. There's the early stage companies that are here looking for funding. Your manager of funding. That's getting harder and harder to do, because there's already been a group of people that said, hey, we got this product or solution for a very complex world, and now we have something working. Now it's working. Getting more funding for that to the next level is a lot easier than startup funding, right? We've gone through the startup funding stage. Then there's the scale, of which a lot of people up sales, their scale. And now they're beyond getting more funding. They're now, we're going to go public, or now we are a public company and we're here. And there's opportunity at every one of those, probably more at that mid-level stage, I think, which is what you mentioned, because it's like the wild, wild west. And there's so many opportunities for people. Talk about a little bit, what does the company do, and what is your job when you talk about expansion? What are you expanding? And funding, what are you looking for?
So, at a super high level, we're an industrial energy management firm. So really what we're looking to, and what we've pivoted into over the last 12 to 18 months, is combining our own in-house IoT remote monitoring systems with new AI systems to pretty much create roadmaps for customers. So we can provide, in a very succinct package and a very bespoke package, the technology and solutions that they need to get from, a dumb facility all the way to those full smart facility capabilities. So when you're working with a lot of the, that mid-sized manufacturing, when, let's say they've got 60 employees, you're not going to have someone whose full-time job is managing energy and understanding everything you can around, the tariffs, the regulations, the programs, even just the solutions. So if we can offload that from a customer's plate, still provide them all the benefit, but not require them to make that capital investment, that time investment, and have that technical expertise.
That's the big one.
That's the big one, and especially I think, and then kind of drawing back to your previous point there, when you're looking at the different scales of company, you tend to get kind of shoved or pigeonholed into, we've been working with this subset of customer for so long that we're very rigid. And when you have 1,000 customers, you're not able to change that base program, that base service, that base product based off the inputs of one specific customer. Whereas, if you're a smaller scale, you only have 5, that's 20% of your customer base, hypothetically, that's then providing that feedback. You have so much more flexibility to actually experiment with new things and be more responsive on a customer sense. So you're actually developing a product that's not based off your perception of what that customer need is, but it's actually based off that real feedback and that two-way conversation that you're having on a customer by customer basis. You mentioned bespoke. So obviously you're working with companies where you are the solution provider. You got to do the engineering up front. You got to got to figure it all out and put it together for them. Talk a little bit about the difference between a bespoke solution and then one that I would think would be open architecture solution. You can buy it and install it. Don't ask us to engineer it uniquely for you. You want one that fits what you're doing. Do you offer both? Yeah, we absolutely offer both. That's hard. Yeah, it's again, and I think on the front end, there's a lot of effectively consultation that has to happen with that to really understand what that customer needs. But what we're trying to do is even separate it from an individual product by product basis, combine that all into a roadmap. So we're starting with, we're going to look at your bills, we're going to do some tariff analysis, some bill analysis, some interval data analysis. Then we can start getting into, okay, we built out this IoT, remote monitoring platform. We're going to build a specific solution that you can install, all in one go, if that's kind of where you're falling on that roadmap and how serious and really how much budget you have to put at that time. Or you can install that piecemeal, and then we can start looking at those more technical solutions. So we're getting into peak management based off where your geography-wise, where you're located. Then we're getting into solar, batteries. We can fully size, install, commission, optimize, and dispatch battery systems, solar, generators all in-house, depending on what that customer need is. And then we're looking even further at power conditioning solutions if that's something that's an issue. We're helping you with retrofit planning, so prioritizing what equipment should be replaced in what order, and then validating before and after that you're actually getting the efficiency improvements that were promised by whatever that supplier is. So again, I think a lot of what we're doing there is becoming that one-stop shop where, yes, we're slotting in individual solutions that have some degree of customization along the way, but all in all, each customer will have their own bespoke kind of checklist of the solutions that they need, and whatever timeline they want to take those on is entirely customized to that specific customer. So there are components that, especially when we're looking at the IoT monitoring side of things, do we have customers that are all using the same sensors? Absolutely. Do we have a single customer that's using the same number of a specific sensor at the same scale in the same way? Absolutely not. And then once you're blowing that across, the 7, 8, 9, 10 products that we have included in that roadmap, we don't have a single customer that's entirely the same. And I think that's one thing when we're specifically focusing on that, that small and medium scale manufacturing. So many of those solutions have been, again, on the other side of it, whatever, we're going to give you this thing. It's worked for everyone else we've worked with. So you know what, you can figure it out. Go get a consultant who can kind of customize this for yourself. And again, once you're of a certain scale, you can afford to do that. But again, you're missing kind of that customer interface and the ability to really help educate them along that path, and again, strengthen that relationship in a bunch of different kind of touch points along that that customer interaction. So I think another thing that we're able to take advantage of that we always say we're not selling tires. There's a lot of education that has to happen before, during, and after. We're not just going to give you a set of tires and send you on your way. We're here to really create those long-term energy partnerships so that we're actually streamlining that process and providing long-term benefit as opposed to just
so more of a
benefit.
Consultative approach to everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's the expansion part. I know what you're doing on the expansion title. The funding part, what is it? What does that mean that you are the manager of funding?
So I manage all of our funding activities. So whether that's R&D, grants or loans for R&D activities, whether that's wage subsidies for hiring, that also kind of trickles into some of the organizations and groups that we're a part of. So things like SEPA, RE+, we're a B Corp as well. So that's another big thing that we worked on over the past 24 months. Which again, I think as you're layering in more sustainability into the energy sphere, it's good to see that we've ran into a few companies here that are also a B Corp, but kind of a separate point there. And then also directly supporting our CEO on all of our fundraising activities as well. So we've got a raise coming up later this year. So pretty much anything that touches on bringing more money into the company is my purview.
Okay. The B, by the way, you're the only B Corp that I know of in here because we were looking for them, because I love the whole B Corp concept. I am the vice chair of a mutual fund family, okay. And we're trying to get more. We're trying to spend more money on B Corps and say, look, especially publicly traded. Yeah. There's not as many publicly traded B Corps as there are privately held B Corps.
Yeah, right? And I think especially within Canada, you're seeing that it's a lot of those smaller companies that, again, they have it's easier for them to get certified a lot of the time. But you're right, it is something that even over the past 12 months, the momentum that we've seen and the amount of new members that are joining, even within Toronto as a region, has been really exciting to see, and especially the different sectors, the different economies that are being touched on there. So that's all good movement, and the more buzz you can generate around that from a bunch of different levels, the better it will be for the industry as a whole.
Well, you are the future of the industry, because you're that generation that we desperately need, because the OG, old guys, and the ROGs, the really old guys like me, we're leaving the industry, but we're still passionate about the future, and it takes people like you coming into the industry to that we hand the baton to. So I'm handing you the baton, okay? You now have the
safe
baton.
Hands.
Yes, safe hands, and don't let it fall, and be ready to hand it on to the next generation. But Tanner, thank you so much. Enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah, this was great.